I think Jake Paul is crazy enough to fight Anthony Joshua because the money would be absolutely obscene. It's a catastrophic mismatch that people would tune in to watch because it would lead to the end of Jake Paul.
Ladies and gentlemen, gather your popcorn, your smelling salts, and maybe even your emergency contact, because Eddie Hearn's stunning disclosure about Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua is the kind of bombshell discovery that makes the Kardashians appear like a slow Tuesday at the DMV. This is not news. Rather, it is the whole disintegration of ego, delusion, and reason into one wonderful, chaotic whole. According to Eddie Hearn, Jake Paul is juggling flamethrowers while wearing a blindfold while standing in a puddle of gasoline, which is more than just playing with fire, because it appears that Anthony I was built in God's private gym. Joshua would like to smoke with Jake Paul, the most well-known boxing experiment on the internet. Jake, turn back. This is not your battle. Eddie Hearn is practically yelling while brandishing sirens, red flags, neon warning signs, and an emergency broadcast system. But Jake, yes, Jake is positive he's ready. He's thrilled. He is really energetic. He looks like a man who watched 2 Rocky movies and woke up thinking he was an augmented heavyweight cyborg. In essence, Eddie Hearn said, Jake Paul has no idea the level of danger he's asking for, with the calmness of a doctor making the worst possible prognosis, and, trust me when I tell that Eddie Hearn doesn't mean ouch when he says danger. Instead, he means that Anthony Joshua might strike Jake so hard that his YouTube password resets itself. He's suggesting that Jake's spirit might object to loudness. He claims that Jake Paul would wake up in a hospital room after the fight and ask himself, did I win? So buckle on, because Eddie Hearn's disclosure is so ridiculous, explosive, and reckless that it might be the biggest mistake Jake Paul has ever made. Everyone in the sports world gasped so loudly when word leaked out on the internet that Jake Paul was interested in Anthony Joshua's, the man made of titanium, prayer, and British discipline that chiropractors became popular. At first, nobody took it seriously. Many thought it was a joke, a meme, or maybe one of those AI-created fever dreams in which SpongeBob wins the UFC. However, this started within Jake Paul's personal circle, and Eddie Hearn showed up like the only adult with a flamethrower at a child's birthday celebration. Eddie Hearn asserts that Jake Paul isn't just ambitious or overconfident, but rather is headed straight toward a heavyweight nightmare with the zeal of someone offering to be a test dummy for a rocket engine. What's the most bizarre part? Jake seems pleased with it. Before the paperwork was even written, Eddie issued a warning that was so harsh and unvarnished that it seemed as though he was trying to save Jake Paul's life. Let's go back in time. Jake Paul started out as the most popular troublemaker on the internet, developed into a semi-serious boxer, and then declared himself to be a disruptor of the entire sport. To be fair, he has accomplished the seemingly impossible on multiple occasions. His fan base has grown to be larger than several countries. He has made millions of dollars by punching retiring athletes. He has reinvented himself more times than a Kardashian releases a new line of cosmetics. That brings an end to the documentary Ambition Gone Wrong. The Jake Paul story. The world doesn't know Anthony Joshua as well as Eddie Hearn does. He has seen a J-Train as if he were preparing to fight the sun. He has seen AJ absorb blows from skilled assassins and dismiss them like mosquito stings. Eddie's claim that Jake Paul would be in serious danger didn't sound over the top. He seemed to be trying to alert NASA, Jake's parents, and his lawyer that someone was about to try something that human bones weren't made for. Jake Paul, on the other hand, is certain that he belongs in the ring with giants. It's possible that he mistook AJ's calm manner for tenderness, that he drank too many protein smoothies and felt unbeatable, or that he once saw AJ smile and said, "Yeah, I got this." For whatever reason, Jake has developed the kind of confidence usually found in comic book villains and people who have never been hit in the ribs by a heavyweight who plans to knock them out. Eddie Hearn's message was straightforward. Jake, my guy, you are not in the same galaxy. He made it clear that Jake Paul would face someone with the strength of a runaway planet with bad intentions. He also suggested that Paul's crew is foolish enough to think they can plan around a Jay's strength, experience, speed, reach, IQ, and ability to fold men like clean laundry. The only fate involved is Jake Paul waking up after the fight and asking the paramedics if the cameras are still on the back of an energy drink can sponsored by Logan Paul. Jake acts as though he is the chosen one in a mysterious boxing prophecy. But Eddie's warning was clear. This is not a game. Jake Paul posted cryptic hints to make the situation even more hilarious. The controversy escalated at this point. There were rumors that Jake Paul had been secretly supporting the AJ fight for months, not days, not weeks, but months, and that he had been telling people behind closed doors that AJ is beatable, predictable, and overrated. Oh, the blasphemy. Boxing fans have never been more incensed since someone compared a TikTok dancer to Floyd Mayweather before Jake convinced himself that he was unstoppable, immortal, or the final boss in video game boxing. Eddie knew he had to make a public statement. You could practically hear his head racing when he heard Paul call AJ beatable. Oh, this youngster wants to meet God. The world trembles when AJ punches and careers reevaluate themselves. Eddie then went on television to deliver the most crushing, politely British warning ever. He didn't scream. Instead, he calmly explained that Jake Paul is greatly underestimating the difference between boxing celebrities and boxing monsters. Much like a teacher explaining to a student why jumping out of a second-floor window isn't ideal at that moment. The internet went crazy. Memes about Jake Paul's face being photoshopped into cartoon. Bodies flying through space went viral on all platforms within minutes, and fans started sharing these pictures. TikTok developers used action figures to recreate the fictitious fight, with Jake fainting after a light tap. Professional fighters also commented, some laughing, others pleading with Jake not to do this, and still others praying as if this were a spiritual rather than a sports issue. Jake Paul ignored them all before talking about it in public again. Eddie Hearn did everything but tattoo warning labels on Jake Paul's forehead. He reiterated his desire for big challenges, big names, and big legacy moments, which sounds inspiring until you remember that Anthony Joshua is a crisis rather than a moment. He's a gloved, natural disaster. Eddie Hearn was somewhere in the middle, rubbing his forehead like a man watching his Wi-Fi bill triple for no apparent reason, while others thought he had reached his main character delusion era. The media went crazy when Eddie revealed that meetings, conversations, and genuine interest had actually taken place. Jake Paul's pursuit of the biggest payout of his life led others to believe he was a genius. What was the most weird thing Eddie said? The staff under Jake Paul seemed confident, not hopeful or optimistic. But confident, they appear to believe that a Jay's style is made for Jake. A daring claim that experts are currently looking into. In 100 attempts, Jake Paul does not defeat Anthony Joshua was Eddie's terrifying, almost dramatic last line. That is not a prognosis, but a prophecy carved into Mount Olympus. 100 attempts. No victory. Eddie Hearn, who has seen true heavyweights dominate the sport, stated unequivocally that Jake Paul should be quite terrified. Jake's desire to fight AJ wasn't the only scandal. It was the decision's total insanity. The leak was that Jake's team actually thought it was a good idea. Not that a fight could happen. When Eddie Hearn's warning showed up on the timeline, the internet didn't just react. It exploded. Jake, what are you doing? seemed to be the collective cry of the entire digital universe, as every famous person, boxer, influencer, meme king, and their confused cousin suddenly talked about Jake Paul's wish to fight Anthony Joshua. And trust me, nobody held back in a matter of minutes. Jake Paul became a walking joke on social media. Jake Paul trying to fight Anthony Joshua is like a chihuahua challenging a Cybertruck to a head-on collision, said one widely shared tweet. Jake, if you want clout, just say that, said another. Jake's face was even changed on a crash test dummy. But the dummy's survival probability was still higher than Jake's chances against AJ. In the meantime, TikTok turned the incident into a whole movie universe, with the creators reenacting AJ knocking Jake into different dimensions. In one TikTok, Jake entered the ring. AJ blinked once, and Jake abruptly changed into a Wi-Fi router. In another, Jake was hit so hard that he respawned during his time on Disney Channel. Among the wild hashtags were hashtag pray for Jake, hashtag AJ Dan single quotes, to do it, and hashtag Jake Paul challenge meaning of life. However, this is where the chaos became even more exciting. Actual celebrities started to voice their opinions. A-list celebrities, fighters, performers, and comedians all had strong opinions. AJ and Jake Paul fighting. Kevin Hart posted on social media saying, "That's not courage. That could turn into a medical documentary." A picture of an ambulance was shared by 50 Cent along with the caption, "Get this ready for the boy. My nephew, Jake." As he went live, Snoop Dogg urged, "Don't do this. You shouldn't fight AJ. He's the person you employ to move a couch. No way. Not a J." Even Shaq, who finds danger hilarious, shook his head and said, "Nope. Had it's like to be hit by someone with a... The Warriors, who actually know what it's like to be hit by someone with a gladiatorial build, trailed behind. After this one, Jake Paul will be eating mashed potatoes through a straw. Dylan Danis said .conor. McGregor recently shared an emoji depicting a coffin without using any words at all. Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King himself, laughed and said, "Jake should fight me instead. I would at least give him a chance to escape." Jake Paul won't last for 30 seconds. According to Deontay Wilder, who put it succinctly, AJ hits like a hammer forged by God. The memes, the replies, and the expert comments all portrayed the same picture. Jake Paul was confidently putting himself in the riskiest scenario of his career because he had never been hurt by reality. But Jake was not going to give up. Oh no. Jake doubled down like a man who searched for how to be fearless on Google and only found the first result. He posted educational movies with the following captions: "Heavyweight mentality. Greater challenges equate to greater legacy." The Wright brothers were also ridiculed. Friend, the Wright brothers didn't fight airplanes. This isn't a movie. Rather, it's a strong heavyweight who punches like he's trying to halt the Earth's rotation. Jake acted like he was altering the course of history, as if he were the protagonist of an uplifting movie in which the underdog stuns everyone. But Jake's insane enthusiasm ignited a new generation of material. He seemed to be walking like a fan-modified Neo from the Matrix. Commenters began debating if Jake had covertly acquired skills. One YouTuber even looked into Jake's astrological chart to see if this was a destiny moment, and the stars said, absolutely not. While the internet was having a great time roasting Jake like a Thanksgiving turkey, the boxing community grew increasingly horrified as Eddie Hearn dropped more bombshells. In a podcast interview, Eddie revealed that Jake Paul's team genuinely believed that AJ's shortcomings might be exploited, taken advantage of. Jake Paul was limited to using a hospital bed. According to Eddie, Jake's squad feels that AJ has slowed down. Anthony Joshua is slowing down. but his blows are still strong enough to send a small SUV into orbit. Regarding the size difference between the two fighters, Hearn said, Jake is a cruiserweight at best. Instead of saying pillow fight, danger, he used the word meteor as an extinction level event. AJ is a heavyweight who hits like a meteor. But the drama didn't stop there. In a 12-paragraph simulation, one user described how Jake was struck and turned into a cloud of beige dust, to which another user responded, too generous. Meanwhile, a poll asking how long does Jake survive was uploaded on the boxing subreddit. The options were 30 seconds, 15 seconds, ZEC, Jess, ding, dash ding. He chooses not to compete after meeting AJ in person. Who was the poll winner? Ding ding. And that's it. But when Jake Paul went live and said, people think AJ scares me, he doesn't. That was the biggest shift. I work out with heavyweights all the time. The talk stopped for 3 seconds, then burst forth with messages like, what heavyweights? Which planet? Sparring Logan doesn't count. Bro, training with heavyweights who aren't AJ is like swimming in a bathtub and then going into the Pacific Ocean. Logan Paul even tried to gently imply that Jake might be crazy, saying, look, Jake enjoys big challenges. Logan told viewers, I love my brother and I don't want him turned into confetti. But AJ is literally built different. But the chaos continued to boost Jake's self-esteem. He posted another video of himself hitting mitts, another video of weightlifting, another reel, looking at himself in the mirror as though he were a reincarnation of Apollo Creed. No one was convinced. Every time Jake uploads a training clip, AJ gains more power like a video game boss, an individual wrote. Another guy said, Jake Paul hitting pads isn't scary. When AJ hits pads, it sounds like a garage door closing on your soul. Then came the comparisons to popular culture. People on Twitter compared Jake's bravery to a small child facing off against King Kong, a goldfish slapping a shark, a bulldozer being attacked by a Roomba mosquito, telling a tornado to calm down, but the best one. A fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua would be as intense as a McDonald's ketchup packet and a hydraulic press. That went viral right away. Public outrage and humor have already blended together. Some fans said they would pay anything to see the disaster, while others insisted that the fight should not happen because they believed it to be inhumane. Some even made GoFundMe pages titled "Buy Jake a Helmet Before He Meets AJ and Protect Jake Paul." Every interview Eddie Hearn did focused on Jake Paul, and he was unable to escape the madness. Does Jake have any chance? Reporters inquired again, and each time Eddie responded in the same way. No, with a polite smile, a soft sigh, and a verbal smack. But Jake Paul didn't give up, kept talking, kept running. Advertisements, he kept acting as if he was being called to destiny instead of utilizing a stretcher. The storm continued to intensify. The memes get increasingly strange. The answers became increasingly audible. The public's perception was increasingly sharp, and every time Jake displayed confidence, the boxing community let out a louder cry. Eddie Hearn is attempting to save Jake Paul before it's too late, and he should fear Anthony Joshua. Everyone in the boxing world felt as though they were living in the season finale of a reality show that no one requested but couldn't stop watching by the time Eddie Hearn's warnings, the internet's meltdown, and Jake Paul's unrelenting confidence tour had subsided. The real question at hand was what would happen if Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua actually faced off. What would happen to social media, the sport, and the Paul enterprise as a whole? Since Anthony Joshua is the living apocalypse in human form, a two-time heavyweight champion and an Olympic gold medalist, everything changes once the fantasy comes true. News of survival spreads, losing becomes the norm, And since gravity, being destroyed becomes the most likely outcome. Let's be clear, this isn't just another altercation. Jake isn't facing a YouTuber who learned footwork from Fortnite, or a former mixed martial arts fighter. And that's where the consequences begin. Let's start by talking about Jake Paul's professional status. He is currently a disruptor, a rebel, the man who forced his way into the public discourse after emerging from the YouTube universe. People like his persistence, his business sense, and his ability to make headlines out of thin air, even though they don't always respect his boxing. However, that reputation completely changes the moment he enters the ring with a J. It becomes a countdown until impact. And Jake is now the underdog lamb, entering a lion's interview instead of the antagonist. And if, or more precisely, when AJ beats Jake Paul, his entire superstar boxer story will shatter like cheap glassware. Boxing fans would say, see? Jake would also have to confront a reality that he would not be emotionally prepared to accept. There are levels in this sport that cannot be transcended by any amount of hype, persuasion, or illusion. Casual admirers might comment, wait, he really tried this. I told you so. But the consequences are deeper, because a battle like that forever changes the public's perception of Jake Paul at the moment. People viewed Jake as wild, chaotic, and brave. But after a J, people would start to wonder if he crossed the line between bravery and self-destructive optimism. The internet, which shaped him, will devour him even if his supporters band together to support him. Every joke, meme, and slow-motion video of Anthony Joshua striking Jake Paul into the astral world endures in online culture. Eternal, inevitable. Brand. Deals don't like that. Sponsors don't like concussions. Investors steer clear of betting on people who seem extremely vulnerable. The following is the effect on Jake Paul's business empire. The Paul brothers run their careers like companies. Every public conflict, announcement, and altercation is a part of a scheme to dominate all media, sell things, and gain more authority. But if AJ crushes Jake in front of millions of people, the Jake Paul industry takes a terrible hit that might change Jake's trajectory for years. The highest level of hydration, Maverick products. Pay-per-view contracts. Public partnerships. Winners are enjoyed by businesses. Reliability is important to businesses. Influencers with functional facial bones are preferred by businesses. It's not the loss itself that matters, but how it happens. Being beaten is a common occurrence. While everyone else laughs, being destroyed by a heavyweight titan. That kind of brand harm cannot be immediately repaired with money. But there's another, far stranger layer: Anthony Joshua's response. Let's be honest. This fight isn't risk-free for AJ either, which is why Eddie Hearn is pacing around interviews like a concerned father. For AJ, fighting Jake Paul is a double-edged sword the size of Excalibur. Well, obviously, everyone says with a sigh if he wins. AJ also becomes a joke if anything less than total destruction takes place. Like Jake hitting one clean punch lasting longer than 60 seconds, or being even remotely competent. Think about the headlines. The boxing world is shaken when Jake Paul survives 2 minutes against AJ. AJ takes longer than anticipated. Jake Paul win. Is a J slipping? Jake Paul didn't die. Jake Paul did better than expected is a preposterous story that might overshadow a J's entire career, legacy, and future. That's absurd, but that's how social media works. Logic is not accepted here, and facts are ignored. Additionally, scheduling poses a danger. Eddie Hearn is aware that fighting Jake Paul becomes disruptive. A diversion, a high-risk, low-reward circus act that could ruin negotiations, timing, and momentum. As a result, he is treating the entire situation as a biological hazard. AJ is preparing for big, meaningful heavyweight bouts, But let's concentrate on the chaotic environment, the social fallout. When AJ hits Jake with a clean right hand. Social media won't be ready. Memes will blow up like fireworks. Reaction channels will break upload records. Twitter will crash. TikTok is going to freeze. And Jake Paul's entire fanbase will start posting heartfelt tributes as if he had just defeated Thanos with a plastic fork. We warned him. Sports pundits will say, this wasn't fair. Boxing experts will say, content. Time is what YouTubers will describe. Why did he act in this way? Will be yelled by casual admirers. Those who hate Jake will rent billboards. Jake supporters will lead prayer circles. And Jake Paul himself. He will wake up wondering where he is, what day it is, and why his teeth feel like a jumbled puzzle. Even stranger, though, is how the story resumes as the dust settles. Indeed, the world will see Jake in a different light, but it will also wait for the next controversy, fight, or outburst. Whether you like him or not, Jake Paul is built on controversy. And this level of destruction may inspire his next reinvention. Maybe he becomes a villain. He may choose to retire. He could make a documentary about the punch heard around the world. Or maybe on this is the strange part, he comes back even more mad, stronger, and psychotic. Due to Jake Paul's enduring presence, he transforms. How about Anthony Joshua? He departs with another payment, another knockout, and another reminder that when a heavyweight punches, everything else is pointless. In the end, Eddie Hearn's warning was more than that. It was a prophecy. A prophecy of danger, delusion, arrogance, ambition, and the kind of mayhem that only Jake Paul is capable of causing. And the globe is currently plagued with one question. Will Jake Paul actually fight Anthony Joshua, or will he suddenly lose his mind? Either way, the repercussions have already begun. The scandal is only getting worse, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, this heavyweight fever dream, this magical journey through delusion, danger, destiny, and an abundance of turmoil similar to Jake Paul's has come to an end. Congratulations. If you've made it this far without passing out, it's calling 911 for Jake in advance, or texting your group chat. Bro, he's really not built for a J. You're built differently. But before you rush out to review Anthony Joshua's highlights and pray Jake Paul never sees them, let me ask the real question. What do you think? Is Jake Paul the world's most brave person? Is he the most delusional man on the planet? Is he just trying to get his documentary How I Accidentally Met Jesus in Round 1 out faster? Please feel free to express your most bizarre thoughts in the comments section. This channel will always be chaotic, so feel free to let your inner chaos run wild. Smash that button as if it owes you money while you're down there. As if Eddie Hearn is slamming the panic alarm every time Jake talks. Or as if you're trying to wake Jake after AJ hits him. YouTube believes you're reporting an emergency when you strike it so hard. Scandals don't sleep around here. So sign up, drama never ends. And before Jake Paul offers to fight in battles he can't win, we stop going crazy. Additionally, activate the little bell icon for alerts. Yes, treat it in the same manner that AJ treats punching bags. Give it your best so you don't miss the next expose, meltdown, leak, or internet-breaking disaster. And remember that in the world of conflict, power, controversy, and questionable decisions, there is only one website that can deliver the truth with as much fire, comedy, and mayhem. The boxing room is located here. The combatants are not as powerful as the narrative. At the next explosion, I'll see you.